Welcome to the Ice Age, a frozen wasteland where everything wanted to eat you. Have you ever wondered how our ancestors actually survived this deadly era? Forget the movies where cavemen are brave, fearless hunters. The brutal reality of the Pleistocene epoch was entirely different. We were definitely not the apex predators. Let me introduce you to the real bosses. First up, the Smilodon, widely known as the Sabertooth Tiger, a massive, heavily muscled killing machine. This beast packed flat, blade-like canine teeth over 7 inches long. It didn't chase you. It waited in the shadows for the perfect ambush. Then there was the terrifying dire wolf, much larger and much stronger than modern wolves, roaming the frozen tundra in massive, highly organized hunting packs. Their jaws were built to crush bone effortlessly. If a pack of dire wolves locked onto your scent, your chances of escaping were basically zero. And don't even get me started on the giant short-faced bear. Standing over 11 feet tall on its hind legs, it could outrun a horse. Now, let us look at our prehistoric ancestors. Meet the early Homo sapiens. No sharp fangs, no deadly claws, and basically zero thick natural armor. To make matters worse, we had completely lost our thick fur coats. We were running around this freezing, icy landscape with extremely thin, sensitive skin. In a pure foot race, a saber-toothed tiger or a dire wolf would catch an early human within seconds. We were essentially the perfect prehistoric snack. If it came to a wrestling match, a human wouldn't stand a chance. A single swipe from those massive paws would instantly remove you from the evolutionary game. Our night vision was terrible compared to these apex predators. While they could perfectly navigate the dark, we were practically blind once the sun went down. By all laws of biology and nature, the fragile human species should have gone entirely extinct, wiped off the map by these giant ice monsters. Yet, somehow here we are today. We built giant cities and conquered the globe, while those terrifying saber-toothed beasts are nothing but dusty museum fossils. So what was our ultimate secret weapon? How did the ultimate underdog completely flip the script on the deadliest predators in Earth's history? Let's find out. The secret wasn't magic. It all started with simply standing up. Becoming bipedal, walking on 2 legs, completely changed the survival game for our early ancestors. Walking on 2 feet is incredibly energy efficient. Compared to 4-legged predators, early humans could walk for hours without quickly draining their biological batteries. A massive saber-toothed tiger might be a champion sprinter, but its heavy muscles burned enormous amounts of energy. They exhausted themselves very quickly during long chases. More importantly, standing upright completely freed up our 2 hands. We no longer needed our front limbs just to move across the freezing snowy landscape. With free hands, our ancestors could suddenly pick up heavy rocks, carry food over long distances, and hold primitive tools. The world became our ultimate sandbox. But free hands weren't nearly enough to fight giant beasts. Evolution requires strict trade-offs. To survive, our bodies made the riskiest biological gamble in planetary history. Our digestive tracts actually shrank. A smaller stomach meant we spent far less energy digesting huge amounts of tough plant matter. But where did that saved energy go? Straight to the brain. Our ancestral brains exploded in size. We completely traded raw physical muscle mass for an absolute powerhouse of pure intelligence. Make no mistake, your brain is a massive energy hog. Even though it's relatively small, it burns around 20% of all the calories your body consumes daily. While the mighty saber-tooths and giant bears were busy upgrading their teeth and sheer muscle mass, their mental processing power remained stuck basically on factory settings. Meanwhile, we were secretly upgrading our internal biological hardware. This massive brain allowed us to analyze complex patterns, predict predator movements, and create intricate strategic plans. Instead of fighting a giant beast head-on, an early human could figure out its specific hunting territory, track its daily routine, and simply decide to walk around it. We started analyzing the environment. We learned where the ice was impossibly thin, where heavy rocks could safely fall, and how to use the treacherous terrain perfectly against them. Predators usually act on raw biological instinct. If a hunting strategy failed, they just tried to bite much harder. They were completely predictable, and predictability means highly vulnerable. So, we definitively couldn't outrun them, and we couldn't outfight them. But we could absolutely outsmart them. However, a big brain alone still wasn't quite enough to win. A highly intelligent brain is practically useless if you are wandering alone in a blizzard. One early human was an easy snack, but 50 early humans? That was an entirely different story. By themselves, our ancestors knew perfectly well they belonged firmly at the absolute bottom of the local food chain. But humanity's greatest survival mechanism was complex social cooperation. We formed large, fiercely loyal tribes. We hunted together, gathered together, and fought off terrible nightmares together. Imagine being a hungry dire wolf. You spot a weak human, but suddenly 50 of his angry friends pop out of the bushes holding giant rocks. To organize these massive mobs, humans developed early forms of language and complex communication. We could rapidly share crucial information, warn others, and execute coordinated strikes. While a bear could only grunt loudly, early humans could literally tell each other, "Hey guys, the giant kitty sleeps by the river, attack at dawn." This unparalleled level of teamwork completely transformed humans from simple prey into highly organized, highly dangerous tactical pack hunters capable of outsmarting anything. Even the most apex predator quickly realizes it's severely outmatched when suddenly surrounded by 30 screaming apes jabbing sharp wooden sticks at its face. But human teamwork wasn't just for securing dinner. The harsh Ice Age winters forced us to find safe shelters. And the absolute best real estate? Warm caves. There was only one tiny problem. Those luxury caves were already heavily occupied by giant angry bears, lions, and wolves who didn't want roommates. So what did humans do? We simply organized a massive hostile takeover. A huge, screaming mob of humans rushed the cave all at once. Even massive apex predators were totally overwhelmed by sheer numbers and chaos. They were aggressively evicted from their own cozy homes by these hairless apes. With a safe shelter secured, the human tribe could comfortably sleep, raise children safely, and plan their next brilliant moves without freezing to death outside. Individually, we were completely pathetic. But collectively, human beings had successfully become the most terrifying, organized gang syndicate the Ice Age had ever seen. Yet, brains and numbers alone still weren't quite enough to conquer nature. We needed tools of ultimate destruction. It was time to completely break the rules. The first ultimate cheat code was mastering fire. Fire wasn't just a portable heater to survive the freezing nights. It was a terrifying psychological weapon. Every wild animal on Earth has a deeply ingrained, biological fear of fire. When humans learned to control it, we essentially created an invisible magical shield. A raging saber-tooth could easily rip a human apart, but if that human simply held a burning branch, the tiger's primitive brain screamed at it to run away. But fire had another insane biological benefit: cooking. Roasting raw meat and tough roots broke down the complex hard fibers before they even entered our stomachs. Cooked food meant absorbing maximum calories with minimum digestive effort. It was exactly like suddenly upgrading our bodies from slow dial-up internet to ultra-fast gigabit speeds. However, fire was strictly for defense and dining. To actually go on the offensive and actively hunt giant armored beasts, we needed the pointed spear. By simply taking a long wooden stick and cleverly tying a razor-sharp broken rock to the very end, humans created the most important prehistoric weapon. Before the long spear, hunting meant getting dangerously close to terrifying claws and fangs. Getting close usually meant getting instantly killed. We desperately needed range. The throwing spear finally allowed us to strike deadly blows from a completely safe distance. We effectively invented prehistoric sniper rifles to take out targets. Imagine the absolute confusion of a giant Ice Age predator. It's standing 30 feet away, feeling perfectly safe, and suddenly a sharp stick hits it. Then we upgraded even further with the Atlatl, a simple hooked bone tool that perfectly acted like a lever to extend a human's throwing arm. A heavy spear thrown with an Atlatl suddenly hit with the extreme kinetic force of a modern magnum bullet, piercing straight through thick prehistoric animal hides. Suddenly, the entire food chain was completely shattered. The ultimate apex predators were now desperately running from the very hairless apes they used to eat. With bright fires perfectly keeping the darkness away and sharp spears easily keeping the monsters at bay, humanity was no longer just surviving. We were thriving. The biological tables had officially turned forever. But what exactly happened next? How did we go from dominating the icy landscape to being the only ones left? As the brutal ice age slowly came to an end, the Earth began to warm up significantly. The ultimate frozen battlefield was melting away. For heavily furred, massive beasts like the saber-tooth and the dire wolf, this rapid climate shift was an absolute, suffocating biological nightmare. Their heavy bodies overheated constantly. Worse, the giant herbivores they relied on for their massive daily meals started dying out as the landscape changed. But humans? We didn't have thick fur attached to us. We simply took off our heavy animal coats and enjoyed the nice summer breeze. Because we were highly adaptable omnivores, our menus were unlimited. No giant mammoths to hunt. No problem. We happily ate smaller animals, roots, and tasty berries. Starving, exhausted, and completely unable to adapt, the giant predators were incredibly vulnerable. And human hunters were everywhere, eagerly eliminating any remaining competition. It wasn't a sudden dramatic meteor strike that killed the Ice Age monsters. It was a slow, agonizing defeat caused by climate change and clever apes. They simply couldn't survive the relentless combination of a rapidly changing global environment and an incredibly smart, highly social hairless monkey armed with pointy sticks. So, the next time you visit a natural history museum and look up at these massive, terrifying skeletons, please don't feel small or physically weak. Remember that your incredibly stubborn prehistoric ancestors literally looked at these giant, unstoppable killing machines and boldly said to each other, "Yeah, we can win." Our incredible survival wasn't based on having the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. It was completely based on our phenomenal ability to work together. We permanently replaced pure muscle mass with pure intelligence. And that brilliant, crazy evolutionary gamble is exactly why we are here watching YouTube videos today. If you enjoyed this wild, frozen trip back to the Pleistocene epoch, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join our tribe. Which prehistoric monster would you be most terrified to fight? Let me know down in the comments. Oh, and careful with the fire, buddy. Thanks for watching, stay endlessly curious, and I'll see you in the next epic adventure.